Hi, this is Regina Y. Favors coming to you with Life Talk Topics. This is part of my Life Rebound and Recovery series. Life Talk Topics are usually helpful for anyone who has been in a setback and is on their way to overcoming a setback. The topic will help you to gauge where you are in your understanding, as well as help you to plan your way out of setback, which involves um, you understanding your own contribution and the contribution of others. So take some time to listen to this Life Talk topic. If you have any questions, please leave me a comment and I will respond. In addition, I usually leave some sort of link in the description box. Also, subscribe to the channel as well as hit the notification button if you are interested in further topics. Thank you very much for visiting my channel, and I hope you are able to gain some insight from this Life Talk topic. All right, the very first reason why they might pull at you to pull back is to basically educate you on game. This is all a game. And so basically you are going to their school. You are taking their class. Their class is to show you all about game. Now, they're not going to tell you that they are gaming you. They're not going to tell you that they are playing you. They're not going to tell you to keep a journal so you remember how well they played you and gamed you. But if they were able to get whatever they wanted to get and leave you, they gamed you. And what they were doing, especially if you stayed in the relationship long term, and it can be any kind of relationship, not just romantic. It can be family relationships where they keep pulling at you to pull back. In a sense, they are educating you. And to educate is simply to provide schooling, to teach someone. Now, it might help, or it would be a lot better if they started off simply as saying, let me educate you on game. You know, sometimes you might see men do it with their young boys or their nephews, but you hardly ever see women teach their girls about game. They don't, sit them down and say, it's all a game, here's what they're doing, because most women tend to be late to this class. A lot of times they end up experiencing being played, being gamed, and then instead of taking time to reflect on it, they jump into another relationship, or they go get another friendship, or they try to busy themselves in other ways, and then they are played again, they are gamed again. And it isn't until you get to maybe my age, at 44, unless you are the game player as a woman, that you just truly don't understand, or you didn't understand that it has been all a game the whole time, especially if you were not the type of person who dated. So when they pull at you to pull back, is simply their goal is to educate you. And it's up to you to begin taking notes on what they are doing, so you don't fall into the hands of a predator. Because eventually, if you don't learn from the first, second, third, fourth, fifth mistakes, rest assured your snake is at the end of the road. And the snake at the end of the road is harder to let go, especially when you fall in love with that snake. And that snake is very good at advanced game. All right, it's time wasting. So their goal is to perpetuate. So we know what perpetuate means, right? It means to cause something to last indefinitely, to make something perpetual, to make something everlasting. So they are training you in the ways of pulling at you to pull back. And it is time wasting, because You think you are solving their problem when they come to you. I mean, why would you come to me um, and ask me for help if you don't want help? But they don't want help. If you see that they keep coming to you with the same type of issue, that tells you that the very first help you provided, whether it was wisdom, insight, mental, emotional, psychological resources, anything like that. The very first time you provided that help and they didn't receive it, chances are the second, third, fifth, sixth, fourth, whatever, they still won't receive it, because if they have to keep coming back, and you can test it. You always test case things. You can test it. They should not be asking you about that same thing the third go around. Sometimes you may not have a clue. Sometimes it may take you a while to understand stuff. I mean, all of us have our own process, right? But if I have to keep telling you exactly the same thing, and you are basically creating your situation, then you are wasting time. And that's what you are basically good at. And you want to waste time forever, perpetually. That is something that you want to do. And then when you continue to let them pull at you to pull back, you are part of their wasting time, their time wasting. And if you don't really understand that it's all a game with them wasting time as well, you're going to be continually sucked in, and then you won't be able to complete anything in your own life, because if you're time wasting, you're not completing anything. It is an introduction to addiction. So when their goal is to habituate, and we understand what habituate is, right? The main form is habit, to make something of a habit. And we all have people in our lives where they have almost become addicted to asking us for money, right? They come around right when we get paid, right? Because we have big mouths, and we tell them when we get paid, and they come around and they ask for a portion of rent or some gas money, or help them with food, help them with clothes. I don't know what it is, but it is that pull at you to pull back is a beginning toward addiction. People don't just get up one day and say, I want to take drugs. I want to do drugs, right? There is a psychological processing, mental processing of maybe dealing with a parent at a young age pulling at you to pull back, maybe dealing with a father, maybe dealing with a sister or brother playing games with you, pulling at you to pull back, just to test you out, to see what you are made of, right? That's what bullying is, essentially. The bully who is an adult as a bully had a lot of practice as a young child, all the way, so from childhood to adolescence to teenage years, early adulthood, middle 20s, 30s, 40s, or whatever. Okay, they have practiced that. That has become a habit. They haven't had any real consequences, so they are addicted to bullying. So then whoever they bully, they want that person to become addicted to them, bullying them. And so when the goal is to habituate, it is to create this sort of like system of addiction that you are always, every time I say something to you, it bothers you. Then when it bothers you and the person who is doing it, that person feels soothed. So you both are codependent or addicted to each other. And somebody in the relationship is going to have to make a decision. I've had this as a childhood. My mother was very good at that, pulling at me to pull back. And so I had to make a decision in my 40s, and I made it much earlier than that in certain areas, but I had to make a decision in my 40s that I don't want to play this game anymore. So now I am estranged from my mother because I do not want to fight. I'm tired of fighting. I'm tired of the going back and forth. It's like a hamster on a hamster's wheel. And I don't want to do it anymore, because then it's going to spread into other areas of my life, and I'm going to find somebody to do it to them. And that's what you do anyway. Hurting people hurt people. So it is an introduction to addiction. Their goal is to habituate, to get you used to something, right? To get you used to being mistreated, right? Like the pimp. The pimp habituates the prostitute, right? Feed her sweet good nothings, right, in her ear. Have sex with her, right? Turn her out, things like that, and she keeps coming back, right? The drug user, the drug dealer will put just enough of the real drug and then spike it with something else, to get the person to keep coming back, right? To keep coming back. And so that's to get them used to something, so that coming back to them is like a habit. Okay? It is their habit. So for the person who pulls at you to pull back, someone has done it to them, as I just noted. So now they have decided to do it to other people. So their goal now is to compensate with you. And to compensate means to pay someone in exchange for something or to provide something good. Well, the fact that they decide to pull at you to pull back is like a benefit. Now, it's a false relationship. I mean, it's not like true love or anything like that, but it's like they say, well, I'm here, aren't I? I'm here. I love you. I'm with you. I'm in the house with you. It's like they are providing themselves as something good, even though they are toxic. That the keep pulling at you to pull back is a toxic activity. It's a toxic strategy, and I end on that in this audio. But the compensate is to essentially provide something good. So they are saying to you, when they pull at you to pull back, that it's good for you that I do something like this. It will strengthen you. It will help you. I mean, you need help. You need somebody to punch you around a little bit because you're weak. It's the same sort of strategy that an abuser would use in hitting their wife or hitting their husband. That me slapping your face and kicking you in the stomach is good for you. It's something that you need. They pull at you in terms of stay in the marriage, stay in the relationship. I know it's abusive, so what? Stay in it. It's just between us. And then they pull back by pulling out of the relationship making process and returning to the habit of mistreating you. But it's all good. I'm doing it for your good. That's what compensate mean in this context. In this context, it is a show of fake respect. So their goal is to animate. We know what animate means in terms of she's very animated, he's very animated. In a way, they're putting on a show. So I had a student who sort of like criticized the way I was, doing things in my classroom. And it's interesting, I didn't have any other problem from any other student throughout the whole semester. But she just could not I don't know what was going on with her. And I know with me, I train to teach. I study teaching. I tell students all the time that I am a better teacher than I am a writer, because I study teaching. I read books on teaching. I practice teaching. I teach, right? So I know that the lessons that I prepare, I have spent so many hours preparing those lessons. Now, everybody has a different learning, a different way of learning. Some are auditory learners, they need to hear it. Some are visual learners, they need to see it. And then some are kinesthetic learners, they need to move, right? So I noticed that she was sort of show a fake respect. You know, I am the professor in the classroom, of course, right? But then it was a way that she did it where she would pull at me by showing a fake respect and then pull back by criticizing. You know, the way that I provided lessons and things like that. The problem with that situation is that nobody is perfect or anything like that, but the problem is you are still a student. So that means that means that the teacher cannot do everything for you, that you have to sit down and learn the material. However much material it is, it's college. It's college. And so college requires you to read a lot of information in order to understand principles, concepts, strategies, etc. And so I noticed that she would pull at me in a way to show respect, fake respect, but pull back and using criticism. Now, it didn't affect me. I figured it out what she was doing. And I say this at the end with your writing task. She thought she was superior. Now, this is a student who is a student, doesn't have a degree, haven't gone through all of the courses, right? But she thought at that moment that she was more superior. And I had another student who also did, sort of like the same thing, showed a fake respect. And I had to basically get her to understand that she's not the teacher in the classroom. And so that Animate, what they do when they pull at you to pull back, they give life to whatever it is they are doing to you. And that pulling at you to pull back in this respect, in terms of showing a fake respect, they do something that is, dishonorable or disrespectful to see if it's going to work. At the same time, even if it doesn't work, they are so committed to it that they will still keep it going. And that's when I realized that you can set every boundary you want. You can, sort of correct the person you are dealing with. It can be a romantic partner. It can be a family partner. It can be a student in my case. But sometimes your seed might be you telling them that their behavior is wrong, just might be a seed for them. What's going to eventually happen is that pull to pull back is not truly going to work at higher levels. It didn't work with me. I figured it out. I figured both of those students out, and I called them on it. But they still decided to keep it going. And when you see that, a lot of times that person is going to eventually hit a brick wall. I don't know where that brick wall is. It could be an upper division coursework with a professor who embarrasses them. It could be once they get to a workforce environment context and they try to pull at you to pull back, they might get fired. But somewhere it's not going to work. Again, it didn't work with me, but I realized that they were so committed to showing a fake respect that somehow they think that is the solution for them, for whatever reason, right? Of course, you still got to pass my class. If you don't pass my class, I will fail you. But even with all of that, you can still have spirits, certain types of spirits that are very belligerent, very very deliberate, very obstinate in their behavior, and you just have to make peace with that and let them go on with their life. Hopefully they make the right choices. So when they pull at you to pull back, it is a show of fake respect, and it is their way of giving life to the argument of showing you fake respect. Okay? It is a display of disrespect. Their goal is to mandate. So the goal to mandate is basically that authoritative command, right? They have taken command over you. With those students, because I can pick that up in terms of their show of fake respect and call them on it, I was able to wear them down to the point that by the end of the course, they could no longer use that strategy, but they still are committed to that strategy. What they're doing here in terms of displaying disrespect, it is their way of trying to change positions. So I had this one student, sweet as pie, but every time I came into the classroom, she wanted to sit at the teacher's desk, and I had to call her on it multiple times. What she was trying to do in that regard was change my position. She was going to be the teacher, and I was going to be the student. Now, in some respect, it kind of was effective because I got to see her behavior. I got to see her thinking. I got to see her argument. But I always take control of my classroom. No one is in control of my classroom. Now, I do submit to authority. There are authorities. You know, I have to report to a dean, the chair of the English department, and then of course I have other deans, and then there's a whole hierarchy. So I do understand authority and organizational hierarchy, and that's what you kind of have to teach when you are in the classroom. Now, I don't know what your situation is, but if you get somebody who moves in with you and you have set boundaries in the house for where they should be and not should be, and then they decide to do whatever they want to do and go somewhere where they are not supposed to be, especially like if you have a man at the house. And I never encourage any woman to move in a friend girl while you have a man at the house. I would never do that. But you tell her not to go into your bedroom. That's something that you shouldn't even have to say. That's just obvious. But all of a sudden you come home and she's in your bedroom. And what she's basically trying to do, without saying it, but with her actions, is mandate that she's going to take over your position. She's weaseling in. She's snaking her way through. She has conversations with your husband behind your back while you are at work. She texts your husband, and it's all to break down his defenses. So she'll pull at you in terms of let's be friends, but then she'll pull back and criticize your relationship with your husband, right? It is a display of disrespect that is so obvious and so audacious that she will be in the house without you there. And so to mandate something is that sort of authoritative command, and with that person's activity, they are saying, I'm coming for your husband. I'm coming for your role as a wife. You know, I had a friendship back in San Diego. I was roommating with this girl. We all worked on the same job, And there's this, we all knew the same guy, but she had a boyfriend at the time, and she spent time with her boyfriend. But then her boyfriend went off. He was in the Navy, and he went off on like PT training, which is physical training or whatever. So she needed somebody. She was one of those types of people who were easily bored. So she needed somebody. So she began to make a play for my friendship with the guy. And she started changing how she dressed. Whenever he came over to the house and came to pick me up to take me to the movies, and we were just friends, she would change how she dressed. She started wearing Daisy Duke shorts and a very tight tank top. She started wearing her hair down. When in past, she liked to wear it up in like a little bun or something like that. And she started wearing makeup. And she had to kind of face that she didn't need makeup. But what she was trying to do, and then she started to kind of snake in whenever we would go somewhere. It is awkward when two people are going somewhere and there's one person sitting on the couch. You automatically say, "You sure you don't want to go?" Right? And so she would pretend that she didn't want to go while I was with him. And then there would be times that she would agree to go. But when I was at school, behind my back, somehow they started hanging out with each other. Now, he was my friend. He wasn't my man. But it was still her way of being competitive in a sense. She wanted whatever he was giving me as in terms of friendship, she wanted herself. So she was essentially mandating that I'm coming after your friend because I want what he gives you. And she would show me a display of disrespect, saying, I'm sorry. She would pull at me and say, "Oh yeah, that's good. He does all of that. He's a good friend." And then she would display disrespect by coming along with us, trying to get involved, calling him behind my back, and just essentially saying, "I'm mandating that you are going to change positions, that he's going to be my friend, and he's no longer going to be your friend." And that's what it ended up happening. When I realized what she was doing and I realized what he was doing, and I called him on it, and he said in response, so why are you friends with me then? And when he said that, just my heart dropped, and I knew that I had to call him back to end our friendship. And I think that's really the first time I've ever made such a important decision in terms of standing up for myself, because I had a history of not standing up for myself or just going silent altogether. But when they pull at you to pull back, it is usually a display of disrespect, and they're trying to mandate a change in position. It is a play to determine vulnerabilities. So the goal is to determinate. Now, we don't use, determinate often, but we do use the word determine. But determinate means to have defined limits, to determine exact limits. And what they're trying to do is to figure out where you are vulnerable. When you go to a bar or a pool hall, and you often see like a dartboard, and the dartboard will have darts on it, of course, and then you have people who crowd around the dartboard, and what they're doing is they are throwing the dart to hit the center. And if you hit the center, everybody goes crazy and saying, "Wow, wow, wow, good job," things like that, right past the person on the back. So you would throw the dart multiple times to see if you can hit center. Sometimes you get way off, sometimes you get up at the top, sometimes you get at the bottom, sometimes you can get very close. But then there comes a time when you position yourself very well to throw that dart, and you have achievement. You achieve that center. Well, people do you the same way. People can't just completely take you down, right? We all have something in us that wants to be free. That even the caged bird sings, right? In the cage, but it sings. Even the hamster rolls around on the hamster wheel as some form of freedom. So what they try to do is figure out where you are vulnerable, and they know they cannot take you down completely, but they also need to know what your limits are so they can continue to work from those limits. So if they throw a dart by saying something, oh, you need to change your shoes, and you basically agree, you don't get mad at them, they know that doesn't affect you. If they say something like, girl, you need to quit eating all that ice cream, you're gonna get fat, and you still agree, or you still have a little bit of a movement, it kind of bothers you a little bit, but not a whole lot, right? They know they might be close, but that's still not it. But if they attack something that is really personal to you, and everybody has their own example, I don't necessarily have to give an example of that, then they know they got you. They know that's the limit that they can work from. In the situation I told you about the friend, there was a lot of stuff that she did that didn't really bother me. That when she took the friend, or he went willingly, that bothered me a little bit. But somehow I had become okay with it, because one day he had said on the phone with me that he doesn't have any best friends, and all this time I thought I was his best friend. So he was kind of slowly, exiting me out of his friendship anyway. But one day we had all had a falling out at the house, and her ex-boyfriend had come back. Her boyfriend had come back, and we were all at the house, and my ex-friend said he needed to come back and get his fan. I was using his fan. Her house had didn't have a lot of air conditioning, and so I needed a fan. And so I was using it. And I said that I really needed to keep it until I left, because I had already packed to leave. And she gets all involved and said, I'm telling you right now, he's going to come get his fan. He's getting his fan. He's leaving with his fan. And I said, whatever, I'm not worried about that. That's fine. And she yelled, I want you to get out of my effing house, you ugly black bitch. And something about that really got to me, that I had to go into the room and sit down, because my head was swelling from just being hot. That got me. And it's a number of reasons why. It could be the ugly part of the reason. It could be the black part of the reason. It could be the bitch part of the reason. But putting them all three together really affected me. And that is something that I'm going to work on and think about when I go through my setback series in terms of development of content. But that is something right there that got me. And that was really the first time that I realized that skin color was a problem for her. Because when she never said anything like that. And with her, she never argued while we were in the house together. She only did that when she had an audience. So her limits, she may be vulnerable in the sense that she doesn't know how to address a problem without help. It's the same thing that you often see when you see fights, on the school ground. The bully always needs a crew. The bully won't fight you alone, right? But in that moment, she was setting me up for that final finale. The going after him in terms of the friendship and changing my position. Kind of socially isolating me when her friends came around, and then that final ugly black bitch. And I had never given her an indication that she could use that towards me, but somehow her heart revealed itself. So it is a play. When they pull at you to pull back, it is a play to determine, vulnerabilities. And so when I did not respond with hitting her, because remember, she has done and said multiple things, but I didn't fight her. We are grown individuals, right? And that wasn't the thing that sort of pushed my button. It affected me. Now later, when I called her on the phone and we had like an argument on the phone and she wanted to fight, we ended up fighting. It was in my middle 20s. I definitely regret that. And that was probably the third fight I've ever had in my lifetime. But she finally threw that dart that got me to come to her level. That's what she wanted to do the whole time, which was to fight. And that's what people oftentimes want to do. They want to fight you. That's why they pull at you to pull back. And in some cases, they can't, because the one dart they throw is not enough to get you to fight. Another dart is still not enough, but there is a dart that they can use to get at you. And she eventually played me on that. I didn't know all that time that she wanted to fight me. And it's not so much that she wanted to fight me because I did her horribly. She was trying to fight change. That behavior that she was talking about and demonstrating was behavior that she talked about on the job as a way of bragging about it. I'm not the first person she's done that way. And so she was actually fighting change. It is a chess game of ego, so their goal is to invalidate. Usually we know what invalidate means. It's to sort of make something invalid. But think about the very first time you've had sex and how you said, I want to wait till I get married, right? As soon as you make that statement that you want to wait, and having sex for the first time is the best example, because I don't think everyone wakes up saying that they want to have sex their very first time. They have the feelings, they get hot and heavy, but there is a lot of resistance in the beginning. Now later, after they have sex, they go and they wake up and they want to have sex, but that initial motivation comes with a lot of resistance. So the person says, I want to wait until I have sex, right? And then the partner says, well, I want to have sex right now. And I don't want to wait. And then you come back and say, yeah, but I want to wait till I get married. I don't want to have a baby. And then the partner says, yeah, but if you love me, you'll do it, right? And then the female partner said, well, I don't know. I mean, is it going to hurt? And he says, well, I'll be gentle. Don't worry about it. I'll be gentle. And then she gives her, resistance Sometimes it can be true resistance or, fake resistance, right? And then he pulls at her some more, right? Until he completely wears down her defenses, and then they are having sex. So it's sort of like the pull at you to pull back. The pull back then becomes, I'm not going to be in relationship with you, right? What the person is suggesting in terms of, invalidating is your argument about waiting to have sex is wrong. That's what invalidate means also, that to prove that an opinion, an argument is wrong. You can make the case that the person said, well, everybody's having sex today. I mean, it's not that taboo anymore. So your argument to wait is not really, doesn't hold water. And then the person can say, well, I have every right to wait if I want to, but it's still, I think that's a valid argument, but you need to leave that environment. That as soon as you say you want to wait, don't hang around. Because then if you stay around that environment, you're going to give in eventually. Even if he doesn't get sex out of you the first day or the second date or the third date or whatever, eventually he's going to challenge that argument of waiting, and you will eventually give in, and he will have won his argument, his chess game. And because one thing about men, they have to maintain their ego. They cannot leave the situation a loser. They have to have some way that they win in the end. And so even if they wear down your defenses their first day and you don't have sex, the fact that you are, bothered by it is enough for them. Now they have to go, they have to go the distance and get you to have sex with them, right? But they have to be winners in the situation. Your argument cannot be a true argument if everybody is not waiting. Everybody now is into having sex. They are not really marrying anymore, and everybody's basically doing their own thing. So to invalidate is essentially to prove that your argument is wrong. So when they pull at you to pull back, they are basically suggesting to you that friendship friendship is not enough. Friendship, that they don't need, friendship with you. Like I said with the ex-friend, he doesn't have any best friends. So he's invalidating the argument that everybody needs at least one best friend. So the pulling at you is saying, let's go hang out, let's hang out as friends. But the pullback is saying, we're not really friends, we're just acquaintances, right? So it is a chess game of ego, because to pull back is ego driven. All right, it is psychological abuse. So their goal is to dedicate. With psychological abuse, people can mess with your self-esteem. I had an ex. Well, I don't know what we were, but I'm just going to call him X for right now. He would pull at me, make me think that we were in a relationship, and then pull back and basically suggest that we are not. And then he would attack how I looked. Now, back in my 18, 19, 20s, and I'm pretty now, but back then I was very skinny. I carried myself a certain kind of way. I kind of had it going on. Now I have it going on today. It's just that I'm 44. I'm not going to dress like a 20-year-old or even a 30-year-old. But he would mess with my, self-esteem. He would mess with the way my face looked. I have a long face, but it also is round towards the end of my face. Well, that's a family trait. Have you ever seen someone who was skinny, but their face was, kind of round, a little plump? Okay, that's a family trait. If you see their person's mother and aunts and other cousins, female cousins, some of the men as well, you will see that trait. But he would mess with me and mess with my self-esteem, and it's a relationship that kind of led me to go down the wrong path once he broke it off. To dedicate is to give all your energy and time to. So he gave, instead of, giving me a relationship, he feigned like we were in a relationship. And he dedicated all of his energy to essentially tearing me down psychologically. I was so turned around as a result in a relationship that I ended up going and moving out of my house before my time, out of my mother's house before my time. I had just graduated from high school, maybe, a couple of years in, and I ended up moving in with an abuser. Now, I take full responsibility for that now. That's my fault to do that. But something about that situation, something about being exposed to his presence, being exposed to his spirit, his way of thinking, really affected me psychologically, really affected me, very negatively, that I took that wound, and it is one of many wounds. We have, wounds in childhood, but that wound was a wound that really also took me down an emotional sleepwalking road. That I kept getting into relationships where the person was tearing me down. Now, I had come from a background, a childhood, background from that, but something about that relationship with the ex, with that first guy, that really just turned me around. I could not see straight emotionally or mentally or psychologically, and it took me a while, and I'll say even now, all the way to my 40s, to really make peace with that situation. No way in the world will I ever do any business with him. If I see him down the street, he needs to cross the street, and he knows who he is, and I would never have any more dealings with that type of person ever again. But you have to be careful, because you'll see that person later with a new face. Because if that's an issue for you, that type of person who pulls at you to pull back using psychological abuse, if you don't begin to address the psychological abuse, like I said, I have to begin to address that ugly black bitch. I'm gonna have to begin addressing that, and with these audios and series, they help me to begin to address that. But even in doing this audio now, I didn't realize that I needed to address ugly black bitch, and I am going to do that. So when they pull at you to pull back, it is psychological abuse. Their goal is to, dedicate all of their energy and time to basically tearing you down psychologically. All right, it is the befriend to betray strategy. Their goal is to effectuate. Effectuate means to make something happen, to cause something to be. And I heard the befriend to betray strategy. I got this from Jason Lee on Hollywood Unlocked. He was talking about Hollywood and how Hollywood people tend to want to sort of become your friend to only betray you. So that's where that comes from. But I've also had this as a personal experience, that a person will befriend you to betray you. I have a family member who is very good at this, that he will, position himself around you, to gather intel, so to speak, and then use it against you. And that's what that basically means, that they are trying to make something happen. So you don't know what the something is. When somebody betrays you, you are essentially the last one to know. It's on the day that they betray you is the same day that you learn that they have been betraying you the whole time. And so you have to be careful about people who befriend to betray, because they are always up to something. They a lot of times they have larger monetary goals in mind, because if you see something like this, they are trying to raise their status. Okay, their status is usually economic and financial. So they may get with you just to get access to someone else. You know, that person might have the money, that person might have the material resources, or you both can have money and material resources, but that person has a better network. So the effectuate part of it is that to bring about, to cause something to be. The betrayal is the make something happen. So my goal, you are basically a means to an end. I don't want you, I want who you know. I don't want you, I want what you got. Right? If you go back to the example of the friend who you told not to go into your room, and she's in your room, she's befriending you to betray you. So she'll pull at you to, befriend, and then pull back in order to betray. So the goal is to make something happen. That make something happen is to get whatever it is they want to get. All right, and here's the very last one. It is their toxicity. So their goal is to separate. Separate means to divide, to to break apart, to keep apart. And so again, I have a brother, ex-brother, who basically did exactly the same thing. Sort of, his goal was to pull at, say, my mother, or to pull at my other brother, just to separate us. But it began with my own mother, however, right? She used to pit us all against each other. And that type of environment, I went into other types of environments that were the same, where one person was pit against another, and another person was pit against another, and then there was chaos. And so some people just come with toxicity. I mean, they may have developed a habit of being toxic, but they also might just have the personality where they are just, filled with toxicity. And usually it has its basis in fear, anxiety, anxiousness, that the way that you soothe your anxiety is to divide, is to bring about chaos, is to bring about separation, to keep people apart. Now that strategy doesn't last long, because I am estranged from my family, and I want it to be that way I can continue to heal. But there may come a time later when reconciliation is possible. I would never trust them again. I would never trust them again. I would never be in the same house with them. I would never be in any vicinity. When I make it big, I promise you, they would have to, go through a representative, because I don't trust them. Whenever you have somebody who wants to divide and separate, that is something that you really need to pay attention to. They are showing you something, they are telling you something, and they are extremely, extremely dangerous. So here is the writing task I want you to consider. People who pull at you to pull back think they are superior. Journal your feelings about how a friend, family member, romantic partner sees you. What do you think about the person? A lot of times when they are pulling at you to pull back, it's a distraction. So it's like you never really see them for who they are until they escalate their toxicity or their chaos. And then you end up experiencing the brunt everything that they are putting on you. Like, when I talk about the drunk driver never gets killed, you never know that you're going to die until you actually die. And then even then, you don't even know that because you're dead. And so, but they thought they must have been more, superior to you to speed. Here it is, you're telling them stop speeding, and they decide they want to continue to do it. They think they are superior. They think that their argument, what they think about the situation, is much more important. So I want you to think about that. That person who keeps pulling at you to pull back, in some ways, if you continue to give in, you are changing position. So that means that if they are superior, you are inferior, and they can continue to pull at you to pull back at whim. And it is time for us, all of us, to begin thinking about the choices that we make, the people that we choose, and stop saying, well, I didn't know she was going to do that. That can still be true. But as soon as the person, does it, what decision are you going to make? You got to have the courage to conclude people out of your life. That person served a purpose in your life, either for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And there are certain people you just cannot take with you. It will devastate you. It will devastate your life. It will run you down. You may get cancer as a result of all of the stress, that's connected to it. So people who pull at you to pull back think they are superior. Journal your feelings about how a friend, family member, romantic partner sees you. What do you think about the person? All right, so hopefully you were able to gain insight from this video discussion. Please like, subscribe, and visit. So please like the video, hit the notification bell for more discussions. I am re-uploading all of my audios, so I needed to make some changes to them. You can visit my website for more content at reginayfavors.com. If you want to send me an email, you can send an email, reginayfavors@yahoo.com. Please also purchase the book. It's going to come out in spring 2021. So I had to make changes to my book to update it, and I also updated the title. So the original title was Bait, Hook, and Switch: Confessions of a Rebound Girl, and I have updated the title to Toxic Encounters: Why People Pursue Rebound Relationships. So right now I'm still basically editing it, and I want to make it available in spring 2021. So thank you very much for visiting my channel, and I am Regina Y. Favors. Have a great day.